Welcome to Religious Folly. This week's episode is episode 5, and we will be talking about the Mormon belief system and their history and all of that good stuff. So, my name is Sarah Napier, and with me here is my dad, Michael Napier. Hello, Dad. And we are, like I said, on episode 5. We are trucking right along in our Religious Folly and really excited about getting into the Mormons. Full transparency, the only thing I really know about Mormons is from the musical, The Book of Mormon. That's where I know the majority of my knowledge, Joseph Smith Jr. and, missions. So, not very deep in my knowledge. So Dad here, of course, is our resident expert, and he will walk us through what the Mormons believe, what their history is, as well as take some direct quotes from their writings, just so you have all of the facts, because that's what we are doing. We are giving you all of the facts. So, Dad, I'll kind of let you kick us off from here.
Okay, well, I'll talk about Mormons for a little while. Just kind of my thoughts about Mormons. I've known multiple Mormons over the years. I've had some very good friends that people I consider to be good friends were Mormon. I have, and honestly, I have never met a Mormon that I didn't like. As I kind of thought about this subject. But then again, I haven't met all the Mormons, so I'm sure there are some that I could take exception to. I have been to Salt Lake City. I've been to the Tabernacle. If you went to Salt Lake City, you would find two amazing structures. Salt Lake City is a wonderful place to go anyway. But if you went to Salt Lake City, you would find the Mormon Temple. Beautiful structure, absolutely breathtaking. And in front of the Mormon Temple is a huge fountain or pool. And oftentimes, if they're going to have a wedding, they'll take photographs in front of that fountain. And I got to watch several couples with their photographs being taken there in front of the fountain. But it's more than that. For the Mormon man, in order for him to have the rewards that he wants in the afterlife, he should be married in the Mormon temple. And it is, I didn't see the inside because I am what the Mormons would consider to be a Gentile. And Gentiles, it is said that I understand that if a Gentile ever got into the temple, the Mormon temple, it would defile it.
Yeah.
But what they have is behind the temple, they have a tabernacle that you can go in, and it has a huge pipe organ. And I went in and listened to a concert from that pipe organ of old hymns and some classical music. It was beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. And if you ever are in Salt Lake City, let me encourage you to go to the tabernacle, listen to the pipe organ, and associated at the side of the temple, they have a huge museum, Mormon museum that talks about their trek west. So it's a pretty cool trip. Salt Lake City is a great place to visit. But let's talk a little bit about who these folks are. Now, I've already said that I've not come across a Mormon that I didn't like, but just because that I like people doesn't mean that I approve or that I have much care for their belief system. And so I am going to try to temper that and just give you the facts as they state them. Let's talk a little bit about who they are. If you were to look at Mormons, there are about 15 million Mormons worldwide.
That's an impressive number because that is close to how many Southern Baptists there are in America. So that's a pretty large number. That's significant.
Well, the Mormons in America, there are about 6 million Mormons in America, in the United States, we say. And then there are another just over 1 million, 1.2 is the exact number, 1.2 million Mormons identified in Mexico. And
Wow.
so, for the most part, the Mormon religion is Western Hemisphere, and there's a reason for that. We want to talk about that a little bit later on. There are over 100 different groups out there that call themselves Mormons. So when you say a Mormon, they're kind of like Baptist. There's 100 different groups. Let's talk about some of the major groups. Of course, the ones that I think most people are familiar with is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or often called LDS. Latter-day Saints, they are often called Mormons, and we'll talk about why briefly. The Latter-day Saints constitutes about 99% of the 6 million Mormons in the United States. So if you meet a Mormon in the United States, especially in the East, more than likely they're going to be LDS. There are members of the Mormon sect, the church that broke off from the LDS, and most of the time, most of the issues was over polygamy. Joseph Smith believed and was a advancer of the doctrine of polygamy, and for that and other things, he was martyred in Navarre, Illinois. But the members of the sect broke off. A lot of them broke off because the LDS says we're not going to sanction polygamy anymore. So the LDS, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, known as the LDS, today do not believe in polygamy. And of course, polygamy is having more than one wife.
Right.
It's interesting.
We see a lot of documentaries about, it seems, the fundamentalists, the ones that do believe in the multiple wives. You see the documentaries about those, and not necessarily the more modern Mormon, which I think is interesting too. We always like to cast our vision on the negative and the bad versus the true and what's accurate. So just wanted to point that.
You're absolutely right. It's the fundamentalist Mormons. They call themselves the FLDS, where the Salt Lake City Mormons are the LDS, Latter-day Saints. The fundamentalists broke off and over the issue of polygamy primarily, because the Mormons were being persecuted for polygamy, and polygamy is illegal, as far as I know, in all states, United States, as far as I know. And so you'll find the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and that is a mouthful that basically just goes by FLDS. They claim there's about 6,000 to 10,000 members. Now, they are very secretive for the most part, and the exact numbers are not really possible, but they struggle with that. The FLDS Church, the Fundamentalist Church, this is not to be construed or misinterpreted as the mainstream. They are a branch, a cult of the cult. They really say they are in the fundamentals of the belief system, and they go a lot by Joseph Smith, what he said. They teach, the fundamentalists, the FLDS, teach a doctrine of plural marriage for the men. And they don't teach the women how to have multiple husbands, just the men. And
That's
basically, isn't that convenient?
Yeah.
They also have prophets. Many people that are listening may be familiar with one of their most famous prophets. His name was Warren Jeffs.
Yep.
And Jeffs was arrested 20 years ago or so over having not only multiple wives, but also for marrying underage girls and having sexual relations with children. And he got at least one life sentence. So supposedly he'll be in prison for the rest of his life, but he was one of the prophets, and they're very powerful. The doctrine by the FDLS really requires polygamy for a man. Remember, a man to receive the highest form of salvation. There are 3 heavens in the Mormon doctrine. We'll talk about that later. But for the man to have the highest level, he's got to have multiple wives. And they generally, the FLDS believe that a man should have a minimum of at least 3 wives to fulfill that requirement. So
Like, what
that's
did they? What is the thought process behind that? Like, why do they think 3 women are going to set them apart? Like, what is that? Is that 3 people like you, so you're on your way? Like, what is the thought process there?
honestly, I can't answer that. It is undoubtedly part of the writings of Joseph Smith, and they do take the writings of Joseph Smith as the very words of God. Um, they believe, the FLDS believes that a woman of marriable, I don't know if that's a good word, but at age that she can marry, once a young lady becomes